Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for the HBU monthly webinar. My name is Sam Wong. I'm from the admissions office. I'm your host today, and I'm very happy to be joined by Dr. Janice Pang from the translation department, who will speak on today's topic, AI and arts, fact versus fictions. Without further ado, I would like to pass the time to Dr. Janice Pang. Dr. Pang, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this very nice introduction. I'm going to share my screen to start with. A big welcome to all of you who are joining from different parts of the world, and I hope that you will enjoy a good evening or afternoon or whichever time zone you're in. Okay, so I'm going to start sharing my slides. Okay, so this is the topic today. My name is Janice Pan. I'm from the Department of Translation, Interpreting and Intercultural Studies within the Faculty of Arts. And today I will be addressing a very, very interesting topic, which I believe myself as well, which is artificial intelligence and arts. I'm going to discuss the topic from the following aspects. I'm going to start with an introduction of what is AI. And then we're going to discuss what can or cannot AI do. After that, we're going to link AI and arts and see how AI has been and can be employed in the discipline of arts. At the end of the talk, I will talk about the benefits and risks of the application of AI in different disciplines. So during the presentation, if you have any questions, you can feel free to type in the chat box, or if I speak too quick, I sometimes tend to do it that way. Please let me know. I will try to adjust my speed of speaking, okay? So first of all, the big question, what is artificial intelligence? What is AI? We're talking about AI all the time now, and it seems to be penetrating in almost every aspect of our life. So what is AI as a matter of fact? So here I'd like to quote the official definition offered by Encyclopedia Britannica. And according to the definition there, AI or artificial intelligence refers to the ability of a digital computer or computer-controlled robot to perform tasks commonly associated with intelligent beings. And in this case, intelligent beings refers to human beings. When we talk about artificial intelligence, we should remember a very, very important name, which is Alan Turing. He is associated with the origin of AI, especially the theory of AI, back in the 1950s. And I will show you a YouTube video about his famous theory relevant to AI. And if you want to look at who Alan Turing may look like, who is, then here's a photo of him, very handsome guy. And I'm going to play a short video which discusses the very famous Turing test. It is a test which can tell us whether or not something we see or we hear belong to artificial intelligence or not. So this is a test, and this is the theory that has been widely applied in the field of artificial intelligence, and also, of course, criticized. I will mention one of the criticism of the theory later on. But let's enjoy the video.
The Turing test, created by pioneering computer scientist Alan Turing, comes up a lot in sci-fi culture and discussions about intelligent robots. But what exactly is the Turing test, and what does it mean if the computer passes it? Alan Turing first described what we call the Turing test in a 1950 paper. Turing wanted to answer the question, can machines think? To get to the bottom of this, he devised a hypothetical test. Imagine a game with 3 players. One player, the interrogator, is isolated from the other 2 players, one of whom is human and one of whom is a computer. The interrogator's job is to try and figure out which is the human and which is the computer by asking questions of both. To make things harder, the computer is trying to make the interrogator guess wrongly. In other words, it's trying to be as indistinguishable from a human as possible. If more often than not, the interrogator is unable to determine computer from human, then hey, maybe we're dealing with a thinking computer. Attempts to build computers that can fool humans have revealed some fascinating challenges. For instance, it's hard to make a computer that's good at telling jokes. The Turing test isn't a perfect test of robot intelligence. For example, it encourages trickery. One recent attempt involved a program pretending to be a young boy for whom English wasn't a first language, conveniently covering up any linguistic slips. The Turing test also doesn't account for non-human intelligence. Some of the smartest computers around today have no chance of pretending to be a person, but that doesn't make the advances in AI that they represent any less impressive. So just because a computer looks like it's passed the Turing test doesn't mean we have to bow down to our robot overlords just yet. But nevertheless, Turing's experiment gives us plenty to think about in terms of how we define intelligent behavior and what we would want from an intelligent robot. And after all, who doesn't like thinking about robots?
Okay, so one major takeaway from this video is that there's a very simple statement about artificial intelligence, and exactly the Alan Turing test concerns whether or not a human being can tell the difference in between a computer or a robot as compared to a human being. If we cannot tell the difference, then it means the computer or the robot belongs to the territory of artificial intelligence. So I believe that's easy for us to understand for the moment. So since we're talking about intelligence, especially human intelligence in this aspect, we should ask ourselves the second question: what is intelligence? Again, back to the quotation from the Encyclopedia Britannica, and we can see there are several numbers of components of intelligence. So we don't describe intelligence in one single statement, but we use different components to describe it. So the first component of intelligence is learning. Human beings can learn from others and also from our previous experience. So learning is the first element that is very, very important to intelligence. The second is reasoning. So we provide certain kind of abilities and competence of reasoning, and that is also a second very important component of intelligence. After that, we solve problems. So problem solving is a third element associated to intelligence. After that, perception, which is very, very relevant to the field of arts, which we will explain a little bit further later, because we can perceive what is good, what is bad, and what is good art, say, for example. After all of those four different types of elements are discussed, and a crucial element that is associated with intelligence is using language. So if machine or a robot can use language the same way as human beings, then we can say that this machine or the robot definitely has intelligence. So those are the key elements to intelligence. Now we have finished the first part of the talk already. What is AI? And the next question is, what can or cannot AI do? So if we're going to talk about the possibilities or the kind of capabilities of AI, we can look into a brief history of the development of AI systems. One of the earliest, not exactly the earliest, actually already 30 years or so later after the theory of artificial intelligence was raised by Turing, we have seen a very, very famous equipment, which is called the Deep Blue. So if you want to look at what the Deep Blue looks like, you can look at the photo, which is taken from Wikipedia. It's just like a giant hard disk of computer. It is, as a matter of fact. So what did Deep Blue do? The machine was one of the first designed to play chess. And back in 1996, there is a famous match between Deep Blue and a chess player, Garry Kasparov. And you can see back in 1996, the chess player, the human one, the world chess champion, actually won the game. 4-2. That was the result. But then in the second match, a rematch in 1997. A year later, we find that Deep Blue won the game already. So Deep Blue was one of the machines which actually won the match in between a machine and a human being. So that is one of the first AI systems we could see. Nowadays, we also see the application of AI in the field of transportation. One of the fields that has seen the wide application of AI is the automatic driving industry. So currently we have automatic machines, especially automatic cars, that can drive on its own based on the kind of experience or the kind of perception. If we relate back to one of the elements of intelligence we mentioned earlier, then we can see that the machine can make judgments based on the perception of the environments, and then decide whether or not it should cross the road, and also what kind of speed it should use. So those self-driving cars have been widely employed, although not so widely employed, especially in developing countries, but they are going to be seen as one of the trendy area that AI can see its application in. Another field that we see very often is the employment of AI. Actually, we use it every day. So here we have an app which is called XAI. By installing the app into your computer, then if you say, for example, in your email inbox, you receive a message, and then the message shows a certain appointment date or any other things, then it can be filtered through an AI engine, and then it will be put into your calendar automatically. Actually, we're doing that very often now. Like, for example, if you receive a WhatsApp message, the time and the schedule will be underlined, and that can be easily adapted or transformed into your calendar items. As mentioned earlier, AI can see its implication in many different fields, and another field which has been widely seen as an AI system employer is the field of healthcare. So AI can help you to accommodate, also to search for relevant medical history of a patient, and then to help you to provide certain kind of suggestions during the medical process. So that is another area that we see the appointment of AI very often. So according to a report provided by the European Parliament, artificial intelligence is actually penetrating into almost every aspect of human life. For example, we have what we mentioned earlier, the smartphone or PC digital personal assistants. We have the smart air conditioner. We have the Internet of Things. We have autonomous cars. We can also use AI for online shopping and advertising. We can have smart farming even. And we also see the wide application of robots used in different factories. So those are the typical areas that AI can be employed. Apart from that, we also see the application of AI in fields such as web search, machine translations, cybersecurity, fighting disinformation, and also AI can help us to optimize products and sales paths. So we have talked about the kind of capabilities of AI. It seems that AI can help to solve a lot of problems in our daily lives, and it can do almost everything. But is it true? So here we have a famous linguist, John, who mentioned that actually AI cannot deal with certain kind of things. So we have a critic of the Turing test, if you still remember what the Turing test is. That is, if a human being cannot differentiate between a machine and a human, then it means that the machine is successfully considered as artificial intelligence. So here we would like to use a perspective from linguistics, since we're going to deal with arts anyway. So this point of view can indicate that the Turing test can fail in certain aspects. So here I'd like to show you another video.
60-second adventures in thought. Number 3,
The Chinese Room. Can a machine ever be truly called intelligent? American philosopher and Rhodes scholar John Searle certainly can. In 1980, he proposed the Chinese Room thought experiment in order to challenge the concept of strong artificial intelligence, and not because of some 80s design fad. He imagines himself in a room with boxes of Chinese characters he can't understand and a book of instructions which he can. If a Chinese speaker outside the room passes him messages under the door, Searle can follow instructions from the book to select an appropriate response. The person on the other side would think they're chatting with a Chinese speaker, just one who doesn't get out much. But really, it's a confused philosopher. Now, according to Alan Turing, the father of computer science, if a computer program can convince a human they're communicating with another human, then it could be said to think. The Chinese Room suggests that however well you program a computer, it doesn't understand Chinese, it only simulates that knowledge, which isn't really intelligence. But then sometimes humans aren't that intelligent either.
So based on this video, we can get the conception that actually computers can only assimilating language, but they cannot really be productive enough to really being able to speak the language. Okay, so that's what one of the aspects that AI cannot do. But of course, there are many other aspects that we have a too optimistic picture of AI, definitely. So here I'd like to show you the industrial picture of what AI may be more useful in future developments. So if you look at this chart, we can see here the vertical bar shows the future AI demand trajectory. So the higher the dots are, it means that they will sort of dominating the future trend of the industry. And if we look at the horizontal line, then we can see the current AI adoption. And if the dots are on the left, it means the current AI adoption is quite low. If they're moving towards the right side of the chart, then it means that they can be widely adopted. So according to what we can see here, here on the top right, those two are the leading sectors that AI are employed and also pictured to be employed in the future as trendy industries. So they are financial services, high tech, and communications, which makes sense because they basically need to develop trends based on existing data, and this is what AI can really excel. And if we look at those dots in the blue circle, then we can see aspects such as travel and tourism, professional services, education, as well as building materials and construction are the areas that AI are not so often employed in. So it does not mean that AI cannot facilitate those areas. It's just that AI is not so successful in those areas as compared to financial services and high tech and communications. So this picture gives you the actual picture of how AI is employed currently in different industries. So we have briefly discussed what can or cannot AI do. Now we're going to move to the meat of this discussion today. That is the relationship between AI and arts. I'm going to introduce how AI has been and is being applied in the field of arts to give you some ideas of what your study, especially or your future career will be like. So again, let's start with the basic definition. What is arts? Arts is also called fine arts, and it refers to modes of expression that use skill or imagination in the creation of aesthetic objects, environments, or experiences that can be shared with others. That looks a little bit abstract to us. So if we look at the categories of arts, which might be much clearer and easy to understand. So arts can include literature, which further includes poetry, drama, story, etc. It can include visual arts. Basically, we are referring to painting, drawing, sculpture, etc. or graphic arts, which relate to painting, drawing, we discussed earlier, and more importantly, they focus on the design and other forms expressed on flat surfaces. We sometimes also talk about plastic arts, which is relevant to sculpture and modeling. Decorative arts are more or less relevant to enamel work, furniture design, mosaic, etc. Music, as composition, we also refer to certain kind of music creation and production as well. Apart from that, we also have performing arts, which should be relevant to theater performance, say, for example, dance, or music again, but in that case, we're talking about music on the stage. Last but not least, arts also can include architecture, often including interior design. So those categories give you a certain idea of what art subjects may include. So if you choose arts as your subject of study in the university in particular, then we're usually talking about the philosophy of art, which is the study of the nature of art, including concepts such as interpretation, representation, and expression, and form. It is also closely related to aesthetics, we mentioned earlier, the philosophic study of beauty and the taste. So now the most interesting part, what are the associations of AI and arts? We discussed the components of intelligence, and AI aimed to achieve such kind of intelligence. So the components include learning, reasoning, problem solving, perception, and using of language. So if we look at the categories of arts, say for example, we have quite a mixture of different types of things. For example, literature definitely relates to learning, because if you're learning literature writing in the university, so learning is one part of it. You have to read the previous literature work. Reasoning, sometimes you have to do that as well, especially when you're writing essays. Problem solving, you need to solve certain problems in the world if you're writing an argument. Perception, you want to learn how to appreciate good literature work. Of course, using language, because you need to learn how to use language in a very poetic way, say for example. So you can see all of those aspects are included in the area of literature. We also see a beautiful alignment of all of those elements to other aspects such as visual arts, graphic arts, etc. So I won't go into the details, but you can see visual arts, music, or other types of arts actually are expression of language as well. You can take music scores as a certain kind of language. So they are all relevant to all of the 5 elements we mentioned earlier. So we mentioned that earlier, arts relates to the philosophy of art. Let's look at what we include in the arts faculty at Hong Kong Baptist University. So we currently have 7 departments. We have the Department of Chinese Language and Literature, Department of English Language and Literature, Humanities and Creative Writing, Music, we mentioned earlier, Religion and Philosophy, Reasoning and Perception, very important in this subject, Translation, Interpreting, and Intercultural Studies, where I am from. Using of language is definitely very, very important for this major. We also have Language Center, again, relevant to the using, very relevant to the using of language itself. So again, if we want to see alignments in between the intelligence elements we discussed earlier and also the departments we have, we can easily link them up. Okay. So there's recently a new concept which we call AI arts. So what is it? It's a concept proposed by scholars such as Manosvich, and according to the definition or the test itself, relevant to what we call Turing test earlier, if art historians mistake objects a computer creates after training for the original artifacts from some period, and if these objects are not simply slightly modified copies of existing artifacts, such computers or a computer would pass what we call Turing AIR's test. So basically, if computers cannot tell the differences between a computer-created artwork, which doesn't show closely relevant to a previous artwork, as compared to human-created ones, then that test is passed already, and that can be called AI arts. So I'm going to show you some examples in different fields. So AI has been widely employed in the field, in particular paintings and drawings, and we're using that every day, we just don't know it. So there are a number of software or systems or apps or even websites that can help us create arts, especially drawings, based on certain kind of ideas that we have, and then the computer or the apps or this program can help us to create new forms of art. So I'm going to introduce some of them listed in the previous slide. One of the early machines in the field of AI painting was created by Harold Cohen, and the machine is called Aaron. And the machine looks similar to what we see in those two photos here. So this little machine can, developed in the 1970s, can draw by itself certain types of shapes, and that can be very, very interesting, and also looks like an art format itself already. Later on in 1990s, Harold created other machines, much bigger ones, that can create paintings and also fill in the paintings with different types of colors. So here you can see how the machine is working. And on the wall over there, you can see a finished picture created by the same machine. So this is one of the early prototypes of AI painting machines. Now, of course, we see more interesting applications of AI painting in real life. And we are actually using similar apps. For example, the Picasso app that we have can help you to select a subject to start with, or you can take a photo and then you can choose a certain style if you like. And then the app can help you to create the style you already you feel interested in, and then just 2 taps, the painting is already done. So here you can see this is the original picture, and then this is the art format already. So just 2 taps, you have your own artwork. And we are using those apps very recently, and I see sometimes if you look at somebody's Facebook or WhatsApp profile picture, there are those artworks instead of the real photos of that person. And here's another very interesting app, which is called the Soundwave. What do you do? If you apply the sound wave, then you can record your own voice, and then you will see the sound, okay, in sound waves like this. So this is the sound wave for I love you. So this is I and this is love, and then on the top right, that's you. And then you can choose the different styles of the app. And here I chose the colorful mode, which is the 6th one. After that, then you have your own painting of the sound volume of I love you. And then you can create a gift card or whichsoever. You can print it, or you can send it to Soundwave for their printing. And then they create 3D cards for you based on the voice of yours. So this is how Soundwave can be employed. Microsoft also recently launched the new, what we call Drawing Bot. What does it do? You can type in sentences. For example, the bird is red with white and has a very short beak. Then the app will automatically detect important words such as this bird, white, read a very short beak. And then it will create from the beginning, little pixel by pixel, okay? And then we have short created, read gradually created, and then we have the beak also created. So they will detect the words, and then they will turn the words into picture for you, start from the beginning. So this is what Microsoft's new drawing board can do. AI is also, apart from painting and drawing, AI is also employed in the field of music. So here I would like to use AmperScore as an example to show you how AI is employed in the field of music creation. Okay, so let's watch another video here.
Hi, I'm Julia from Amper. I'm going to show you how to get a custom track for your project in just 8 clicks using AmperScore. After you log in, click Create New and enter the name of your project. Now, to tell the AI how long your project needs to be, you can either upload the video or audio you'd like music for, or you can enter the track length manually. In this case, we're going to upload a video. Next, we can position our spots, telling the AI where to place the intro, outro, and climax of our track. This step is totally optional, and you can always change these later. Now, we'll tell the AI how we want the music to sound. We'll start by choosing our genre. For this video, I'm thinking something poppy. Here we see the available subgenres. I'm looking for something upbeat, so I'm going to go with dance. Next, I'll pick a mood for the AI to compose in. Let's go with carefree. Last, we'll tell the AI which instruments to compose with by selecting one of the available bands, which have the instruments listed below them. Island Vibes is percussion and strings. Let's do it. Once we click compose, we're done. We only have to wait a few seconds for the AI composer to write out our track from scratch. When it's finished, click either the green bubble or the track tab to enter the workspace, where we can listen to the finished product and make more edits. That's it. You're ready for your first project with AmperScore.
Okay, so that's what AmperScore may be able to help you create your own music for your videos, especially. Apart from music, we also see the application of AI in language learning, since we have language departments here. A common application of it is certain kind of apps that can help you to have dialogue with the app itself and to help you to correct your pronunciation. Also to prompt you what kind of sentences you should respond. But those are limited to simple conversations. So for example, we have Microsoft's Learn Chinese app, and you can see from the screenshot of the app itself, we have a conversational interface. And then we have Ni Hao, for example, which means hello in Mandarin Chinese. After that, then you have seen the kind of responses that you can be given, and there is a score given to you if you pronounce or give the response in the correct way. Of course, we see the accompanying scripts in English so that we can understand the meaning of the Chinese sentences. So those apps are quite commonly used for beginners who want to learn a language. And for more sophisticated language learning, definitely you still need help from your teachers or a human being. Okay. Since we talked about language learning, which may help us to understand the easy application of AI relating to language itself, but when we talk about AI and the literature, it thinks that association may not be that direct, which is not true. Actually, I'd like to introduce to you Google's new AI app, which can help you to write poetry like Edgar Allan Poe, say, for example. So here I have taken some screenshots of the app itself. And you can say, for example, just to start writing any sentence, or you can choose automatically chosen lines for you for a certain stanza. And then you choose a certain poet or a poet style to follow, and then the second line will automatically be shown here as suggestions. And then you can either edit the suggested one or just to create your own based on the suggestions given to you. So here we have some finished stanzas, which read quite okay. So if you look at it, we have a comparison of the styles in between Edgar Allan Poe and Emily Dickinson, for example. So I can read the stanzas for you. So if you're writing like Edgar Allan Poe, which is created by the app itself, it's now upon that night as a shroud. It's now upon that night as a shroud. Over spirits that hang like a shroud, the soul of a demon was its part. So that's the style of Edgar Allan Poe. Okay. How about Emily Dickinson? So the app style created here is can read like this. She had a smile to the veil-in face, found in the place among the calm of death. Tears open every gaze to share, away within the word to bestow. So you can see a significant difference among these two styles of those two different poets. Again, they are created by AI. Of course, AI can be used to not just to create different types of artworks, but also employed in the study of, say, aspects like disciplines like literature. So here I've taken a screenshot of a presentation done by Michael Whitmore, the director of Fort Girl Shakespeare's Library, who showed the research on how AI can be employed, especially techniques such as data mining can be employed to study Shakespeare's Othello. And then you can see there are some certain kind of dimensions that can help you to create the kind of styles of Othello in the literature work. So this is how AI can be employed in the research field of literature, say, for example. Apart from that, AI can also be employed in the field of translation, which is more relevant to our department. And there is always the debate whether AI will replace translators or interpreters, but currently it's apparently not so. But let's look at the theory behind the AI-powered speech translation to learn whether or not it can replace human beings or not. Okay, here's another video.
Microsoft Translator's speech translation technology incorporates two different artificial intelligence systems. When audio first enters the system, it goes through a neural network that transcribes the audio into text. However, as we speak, we often unknowingly repeat or use filler words, such as or like in English. The speech translation system knows this and removes these filler words to produce a translation that makes sense. The system uses a natural language processing technology called TrueText, which normalizes the text and finds the most appropriate words based on the context of the full sentence. Once the text is normalized, it goes through a second AI system, neural machine translation. This additional neural network translates the text into the target language, in this case, English to Japanese. If the application also offers an audio output, such as the Microsoft Translator Live feature, a speech synthesizer, or text-to-speech, will then enunciate the text and the user will be able to hear the audio translation in their own language.
So again, you can see machine translation has its certain applications, and then the automatic transcription side has been developing very, very fast in the past years, which helped us to have AI-powered speech translation apps similar to the one introduced here. Of course, we have other language translation apps which can be applied through our phones or our laptops. So here we have a suggestion of 10 best, say for example, free language translator apps for the two types of systems that we have on our phone. And I believe that you have at least used 1 or 3 of them already in your daily life. Especially, I find those apps very useful, especially if you go traveling. Again, most of the cases, they are doing a good job if you're translating some less complicated sentences. Okay. Apart from doing the translation for you, AI is also employed in the research of translation. One part of its application is similar to what I introduced earlier. AI can be used to study the styles of translators and help you to automatically detect which translator may be of a certain book based on a large database of certain translations produced by different translators before. So that's another application of AI in the research of translation. So we have just discussed the relevance between AI and arts, and I believe that you are all on the same picture with me that AI can be and is being applied in different subjects of arts, either in the professional industry or in the field of research. Now we're going to talk about the benefits and risks of employing AI. So here I'd like to quote Max Tegmark, the president of the Future of Life Institute, that there are several types of myths relevant to the application of AI. One of them is the timeline myth. So many people predicted that at least within 100 years, super intelligence will replace human intelligence, and this is inevitable. And the second myth is that super intelligence by 2100 is impossible. And the fact is that it may happen in decades, centuries, or never. AI experts even disagree with each other, and we simply don't know. And the second myth is that superintelligence is just years away and people start to panic. Say, for example, in the field of translation, we hear very often that we don't need to study translation or interpreting anymore because we're going to be replaced by those apps that I discussed earlier. And people started to panic and also withdraw from those studies. But the actual theory is it is at least decades away. But the attitude, the accurate attitude we should have is that it may take that long to make it safe. So what we need to do is that we should plan ahead. As long as we're not 100% sure that this, what we described earlier, superintelligence is just years away, won't happen, then it is smart for us to start safely, some kind of safety research, especially now, to prepare for the eventuality. So that's the reason why ethics in AI has already become a very important subject of study. So this is the common timeline myth. And the second type of myth that we have is the controversy myth. Many people believed that only Luddites worry about AI. So those who are top AI researchers are not concerned about it, which is not true, because many top AI researchers are still concerned about the development of AI, and especially ethical problems relevant to AI. Some other certain kind of myth about the risks of superhuman AI include the following. People may worry that AI could turn evil. And also there's a possibility that AI could become conscious like human beings. And then people started to worry about it. And the actual worry we should have, according to Max Tegmark, is that AI is going to turn competent anyway. And if the more competent AI is turning into, there might be goals that can be misaligned with our original plans. So that should be our primary concern. Besides, we also have a second myth that robots are the main concern. But the fact is that misaligned intelligence is the main concern. It needs nobody, only an internet connection. And then all of those robots can function by itself. So the robots are not the concern, but if the intelligence is against our original will, then that should be our main concern. A third myth is that AI cannot control humans. But unfortunately, it's not true because intelligence enables control. Control is part of intelligence itself. For instance, we control tigers by being smarter. The fourth myth is that machines can't have goals. Again, it's not true because a heat-seeking missile has a goal. Therefore, we cannot say machines do not have goals. Okay, so those are the risks and potential misconceptions of the development of AI that we have to bear in our mind. So where to go, what to go? And as I mentioned earlier, the study of ethics in the field of AI has become very, very important subsubject within the discipline. Because with the development of AI, then we will certainly have some concerns, as we mentioned earlier. And some of those development in the field of artificial intelligence raise important policy, regulatory, and ethical issues that we have to bear in our mind. And the issues that we have include data access problems, who access the data, may become more powerful, and then we have to learn who should access the data, or how data should be fairly accessed by different people. And there may be biases in data and algorithms that people develop, and that kind of results can be misleading. Apart from that, we have ethics and transparency that we should take into consideration as well. Last but not least, there may be legal liabilities we should think about. Luckily, in the Faculty of Arts at Hong Kong Baptist University, we have a strong focus on educating our staff as well as students on this topic. And we have, say, for example, the Robot Empathy and Human Vulnerability Forum organized by the faculty. And we also have lecture series in AI ethics and ethics AI, touching upon different aspects and the subtopics within the discussion of ethics and AI. So with that, I think I'd like to conclude my presentation, and I welcome any questions from the audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pang. That was very interesting. I can't wait to finish this and go try the Soundwave app. That looks really cool. Now we are open for questions. Students and teachers and parents, feel free to raise your hand if you want to speak up, or you can simply type your questions in the chat box. And just so you know, we will have a brief admissions talk right after this. So if you're interested in applying to HEB, please stay tuned. But right now, let's take a few questions about the presentation itself.
Yeah, before we move on to questions, I'd like to share with you this PowerPoint is largely supported by AI as well, because if you use Microsoft PowerPoints now, you will have some design ideas. And then I chose a major theme of purple, blue, purple, red, and black. Then automatically I have this dynamic backdrop of this PowerPoint slide. Again, it proves how helpful AI can be if you're producing presentation materials for your coursework in the future. Thank you.
Well, I didn't know. Another thing I have to try right after the webinar.
Yeah, please do.
So while waiting for the question, actually I have one myself. I've all, because I grew up watching Terminator. And when you are talking about the myth, how AI can turn evil, that's always on my mind. Like, what if one day they turn against us? But then you talk about how now the academics, at least, are looking at AI and ethics. What is the progress now? Where are we now? Like, do you feel like we are on it, and then with all this discussion, it will help, or we are too far behind that we have to catch up on this topic, like how we use AI ethically?
Well, thank you very much for that question. That's definitely a very, very important question. I cannot give you a simple answer to that question because it simply involves a lot of things. And say, for example, whether or not machine will turn evil, that is a question that we cannot answer. But we should correct the kind of worry that we have. Say, for example, AI is not actually turning evil or conscious. It's just that their goal, their target may go against ours, maybe different from ours. So we will go into separate paths. And I think the current discussion relevant to AI and ethics are definitely going to help us to bring those two goals together. So the accurate attitude, which goes to this slide, is that we shouldn't panic. Definitely, there is a timing issue there. Definitely, AI has its own trajectories of development, which may or may not go with our original planned goals. But what we can do as human beings is that we plan ahead, and we try to avoid the things that we predict may happen. We try to bring the two goals together. And another important implication to us is that instead of being afraid of machines or robots, we try to make use of them, because eventually, if they can help our life or work or research or study to become easier, why don't we employ them? I like the metaphor provided by one of my colleagues who is originally from Beijing, and she mentioned that there are a lot of students who are worried that machine interpreting may replace interpreters in the future or translators in the future. And she used the metaphor of, say, for example, a washing machine. So many years ago, or when the first washing machine was produced, nobody really panicked because we knew washing machine could help us to wash the clothes in a quicker way. So why don't we just make use of it? But there are certain things that washing machines can do and cannot do. Say, for example, if you have delicate dresses, silk, then it's still advised that you should go hand washing instead of machine washing. So that proves that in the field of professional industry, some of the delicate jobs still need to be handled by machine. And don't forget that no matter what machines can do, is human beings who are feeding those algorithms and also primary data into the machine to help them work, ideally as the way we design them to help us work. So I think, and I cannot say for sure whether or not we're lagging behind or too much ahead, but I think we're trying to do what we need to do, and we should try our best to do more even. I see there are a couple of questions there now.
Yay! Well, actually, we have quite a few, but let's start with the one by Chitra from Cambodia. So Chitra's question is, if we can gain an advantage from AI, do you think AI can gain any advantages from us too? Is there any way in developing a mutual relationship? Yeah. I think that's an interesting question as well.
Yeah, it is a very interesting and it's a very nice philosophical question. And a simple answer is yes, because we have been feeding all of the raw material, like raw data, into AI. And without the raw material or the kind of programming that we installed into AI systems, they won't work at all. So we are contributing a lot to AI. And of course, the reason why we are doing that is because we want to take advantage of what AI can bring to us. For example, they can save us from those autonomous work. and they can help us to be more creative on the top level. So I think definitely this is a reciprocal relationship. Yeah.
All right. Another very interesting question is actually about career from Tracy. So her question is about job within the field. Which fields do AI and the arts go into, and specifically HABU students?
Thank you for your comment, Tracy. So about jobs within the field, I think AI is, like mentioned earlier, is penetrating into every subject. Even for music production, I believe some of the teachers who are specializing in the employment of AI techniques in their music creation will tell you more about it. But I believe they are employed in different subjects in the arts faculty, like I mentioned. So the different tools in different subjects can definitely be employed to help you to create better artworks. And there is a specific field which we call AI art already. And this is going to be one of the future trends of art production. And we, like I mentioned, we shouldn't feel panic. We should try to embrace the opportunity and see how we can employ the technology to help us create better arts. But given I mean, even that is the truth, I would like to still say it's very important for you to study the essentials belonging to certain subjects. For example, if you're learning translation, the actual enhancement of your translation and interpretation skills are very, very important. So you shouldn't say we rely on machine, we rely on Google Translation from now on. This is simply not the way to work. So as for future translators or interpreters or art students, then you should learn how to be the best of your field, and at least a few such kind of apps in your field that you can decide whether or not you want to make use of them in your art production. I hope I answered your question, Tracy.
All right, we have way more questions than we have time for, but I want to pick the last two, which are great questions. So first of all, Beatrice asked, I think this is a great question. Beatrice asked, how can you value the work of a student if AI could have made and created the work itself? And a sort of related question is by Jude, who asked, how do you think intellectual property rights will be sorted out in the future when AI are creating artistic work? So in a way, it's on how we value artwork when they are created by AI. I'm interested too. Dr. Pan?
Yeah, thank you. So that goes to the questions we discussed at the end of the presentation, AI and ethics. Like if AI creates those kind of products, artworks for us, who will be the actual author? I will take the example from the field of translation, which I teach more often. Then, for example, sometimes we find Google Translation work from students, and as a teacher, you have you need to have developed this kind of sense to this kind of technologies, and then we find something is wrong with the student work, then we tell the student is produced by Google Translation. Or sometimes we have two students submitting the same translation, then it can, one of the possibilities is that they copy it from each other, and the other possibility is that they take it directly from Google Translation. So there is a possibility that students will make use of those technology to enhance their work, or just to submit the works produced by the technology. So there is a difference. So for the first type, if you submit work produced by AI, then definitely it's not ethical, because you are here to learn. As I mentioned, the major task for you in a university is still a student. As a student, you still learn essentials of the skills, how to be the best art producer in a specific discipline. Say, for example, music production. You need to know, you need to develop competencies as music producers as a student, not AI producer. Because if you hold the perception that AI can do the work for you, then you will definitely be taken or be replaced by AI in the future. So that relates to the ethics of a student within the university, and also the realization of the main task of a student, because you need to learn how to excel in this field to better employ AI technology in the field in the future. So as far as copyright is concerned, we usually ask the students to declare whether this is work produced based on Google Translation. Actually, in some of the coursework, for example, we have computer-assisted translation. And in that subject, students are asked to revise work produced by Google Translation. And we are teaching them editing or revision techniques. And that is the kind of skills that students need to develop as well. So we believe that we are becoming more and more resourceful, and the basic core of university education is not changed too far away from before. The only thing is that we recognize the existence of AI, and then we learn how to make our works better using existing tools that we have. But again, the major aspect of study itself, of how to become the best of your field, is not changed. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pang. We have loads of questions, but I'm afraid we have to stop it from here. I think we have all this question because of this amazing presentation, and it does bring us to start thinking about this topic, don't we? I would like to thank Dr. Pan, and I will share with you some of the resources Dr. Pan has mentioned in the presentation, and we will also upload the recording to your YouTube as well. Thank you, Dr. Pan. And now I will give a very brief introduction on admissions to HABU. Now, before I start talking about HABU, I have to talk about Hong Kong. For those of you who have not been to Hong Kong, I'm pretty sure you have heard of us. And it is a city of opportunity. So we have a competitive economies. It's the home of many multinational companies that have their regional headquarters in Asia. It is a great gateway to China, and it is also a trilingual city. So we speak Cantonese, Mandarin, and English. All three of them are official languages here. And Hong Kong is actually a quality education and research hub in Asia, even though it's always overshadowed by our financial and economic development. And what's great about Hong Kong is that we allow students to stay after graduation. So as an international student, you can stay in Hong Kong after graduation for up to a year to look for jobs. And that's what many of our students do. And that's why we call it a city of opportunity. On the other hand, it's a city of quality living because it's a great combination of both a metropolitan and the beautiful nature. I always call how fantastic it is that Hong Kong is one of the energy spots in Doctor Strange, and I'm so glad to be supported by my current international students. It is a great place full of energy, and it's a fabulous city, but at the same time, this is where you find a lot of hiking trails with beautiful landscape. And of course, we celebrate diversified culture. It's a great place for food, and we have one of the best transportation system in the world. And as students, you'll be able to enjoy that with student discount. As for education, Hong Kong is actually ranked as the 10th best student city by QS in 2019. We have affordable education because we are government funded, and it's well resourced in facilities and faculties. Compare that to UK or US or Canada, you'll find that more economic in terms of tuition fee in a certain extent. And you don't have to worry about the languages because we teach in English. Now, a little bit about Hong Kong Baptist. We were founded by the Baptist Convention, that's why the name, but we do not have religious requirements or curriculum. So we welcome everybody to join. We are situated in the city center and allows our international students to explore the city very easily. And as mentioned, we teach in English except for, say, translation or Chinese languages or Chinese medicine, where you will have to be able to speak and read and write Chinese. This is a medium-sized university. We only have around 7,000 undergraduates. It's a small university, but like a big family. So it's a very caring community. You will run into people you know on campus, and that's a great thing. If you like to be in a neat, closely knit community. Talk about ranking, we are 23rd on QS top 50 under 50 and 64th in QS Asia University rankings. Now we have 4 major attributes we focus on, we hope our students could develop on. They are creativity. So we have degree in creative domains such as music, creative writing that Dr. Pan has mentioned. We encourage our students to develop their international perspective. So we have extensive student exchange program and overseas internship program. And you'll be surprised, even during the pandemic, we are having those online, even for overseas internship, which was amazing. And we, of course, we hope that we can resume, traveling abroad soon. In terms of innovation, we encourage students to, start their research and entrepreneurial development early. And our students, like science students, they actually start their research experience as early as in their year 1 summer holiday. And last but not least, caring is in our DNA. We have made surface learning as part of our curriculum so that all of our students can serve the community while studying in university. We have great, colorful residential life. So we have university accommodation. We offer all of our international freshmen spots at the student residence halls. And we have over 100 student organization and interest club, which you can join. And in terms of programs, we have 7 faculty and schools. Dr. Pan is from Faculty of Arts. We have a School of Business, which is triple accredited, and School of Chinese Medicine, Communication, Science, Social Sciences, and Visual Arts. For admissions, we have the entrance requirements, and students will also have to fulfill the English requirements, and some of the programs have their own specific requirements. We try to make it direct and easy for students, so we accept a wide range of tests. Please go to our website for more details. After application after the application submitted online, there will be interview in most cases. Especially for those who are being considered for scholarship. And for application, we do in 3 different rounds. So we have the early round in September to November, main round in December to January, and extended round from January and May. So for 2022, we will start accepting application in September. Now here is a quick look at the fees and estimated expenses. As you can see, tuition fee is very economic, around 18,000 US. Rounding up for year, it will be around 25,000 US. And international students are allowed to work as a part-timer on campus during the semester and full-time out of campus during the summer. We also offer admission scholarship to outstanding international students. This is the end of our presentation. Feel free to contact us. You can scan the QR code here to sign up for more information, and we will also send you a follow-up email after this webinar. So I can take some quick question if you have any about admissions, or we can call it a day, and then we can send you more information so that you can connect with us over emails. Do we have any quick questions about admissions? Okay, I think we are good. Now, thank you once again, Dr. Pang. It was a very interesting presentation, and thank you all for joining us today. We'll be in touch soon. Thank you and goodbye.